all. I'm Megha Sharma. You're watching NewsX. It is the Business World and NewsX joint initiative, Atmanirbhar Bharat Mission. And today is a special show right a few days before the budget. It is the pre-budget discussion, analysis and dissection that we are going to go ahead and do for the tourism and the hospitality and the travel industry. Joining me on the broadcast are eminent personalities, and it's going to be a very insightful and interesting session. Let me introduce them one by one without further ado. That's Zubin Saxena, who is the Managing Director and VP Operations, joining me on the broadcast from South Asia Radisson Hotel Group. Welcome on the show, Zubin. Deepak Deva, who is the Managing Director of the TCI SITA. Jyoti Mayal also joins me. She's the president of TAAI. So does Vinod Zucchi, who's IAS, retired IAS. He's the former secretary of the Ministry of Tourism in the Government of India. Ritu Mehrotra joining me very shortly in the broadcast at this point of time. She's the country manager for India, Sri Lanka and Maldives, Booking.com. So does Bhuvnesh Khanna, who's the CEO of BW Communities at Business World. And finally, Dr. Anurag Batra, chairperson and editor-in-chief of Business World, an Exchange for Media group, who has very carefully, succinctly and sensitively curated this entire panel for us. So Anurag, big guest today. It's going to be a bang for the buck. The session will go ahead and hold. So their opinions are going to count really, really strongly, keeping in mind the budget is on the line, and so far there has been no moratorium, no fiscal stimulus that has been provided to the industry. So over to you.
Thank you, Megha. You're right. We are 3 days away from the budget, and the travel and tourism sector, which is a very large employer, it is also a very large tax generator, and also, it is an infrastructure sector without being called an infrastructure sector. In fact, for a long time, the demand from the travel, tourism, hospitality sector has been that it be called the infrastructure sector, because then in terms of loans and other, relief measures from the government, you get advantage. So this is a sector that needs to be kick-started. Also, we are doing this in the backdrop of vaccination having started. So clearly, people, fear factor has gone away. We've also seen in the last few weeks that the leisure tourism has grown. People are going to nearby destinations. This weekend, when it was a long weekend on the 26th Jan, a lot of hotels in and around Delhi were completely full. So clearly it augurs well for the tourism and hospitality industry that the leisure tourism is growing. So we have an expert panel who are players in the sector and have been involved either in the policy making or are involved in the policy making and are influencers in this sector joining us on the panel. Let me bring in Mr. Zucchi first. Mr. Zucchi, you've been in Secretary Tourism for many, many years. There's this demand from the industry to grant this sector industry status. Do you think it will happen in this budget?
Let me clarify. This industry status issue has been addressed by the travel and tourism industry for quite some time, even when I was there. You see, the good thing about the resolve of the Ministry of Tourism to get an industry status is that in the new draft National Tourism Policy of 2020, we find that the government has mentioned under the draft policy that the industry status will be accorded to the hospitality projects under respective industrial policies of the state. Now, what is important here, and I've been telling the industry, tourism industry time and again, that the industry status benefits you derive more when a state government declares the tourism as giving tourism an industry status. Now, at the center level also, if one is able to get the benefits of the what under the industrial policy you get. But I feel that if we impress upon the union government, and which they have already included in the new draft policy, that they would influence, or they will try to convince the state governments to come out with their the policy which has industry status. Now, recently you will find that Gujarat has given that industry status to the industry, to tourism industry. Uttar Pradesh has given. Uttarakhand was also planning to give. They've given also. Now, budget announcements, they don't include, announcement of industry status. It may be the demand of the industry, the tourism industry, but it is not part of budget announcement.
I understand, but
Now, what
you
is
know,
important?
it is an unusual budget. Nirmala
Correct.
Sitharaman ji has said that this is a budget for the decade of India and expect it to be a mega budget. So it does, these are unconventional times, so maybe unconventional methods of achieving the goals for the economy need to be looked at.
If the Ministry of Finance under the budget proceedings goes out of way, we'll be too happy. And yes, I stand very firm on the industry status part. But more important, in the light of what the Honorable Finance Minister has been saying and what the industry is expecting on the issues that have been flagged, I would say the most important thing for tourism industry is how much budget outlay is increased from the present level. Now, 2,500 crores is the current outlay of the current year's budget for tourism ministry. Now, I would say that for a country like India, such a big country where you have plenty of destinations, you need infrastructure, you need so many things, 2,500 crores is not sufficient. And if you want to give a stimulus package at this point of time to the travel and tourism industry, this is the right time. And the best way would be that we expect the finance ministry to increase the budget outlay and give something, maybe another 1,000 crores additional to 2,500. Although last year there has been a 15% increase, which compared to the Ministry of Culture and Ministry of Civil Aviation has been better. But even then, even if you increase by 15%, it will come to about 2,900 crores. That's not sufficient. So what is required is that government increases the outlay, because that is the best way. See, there are certain legal ways to get benefit for the tourism industry. For example, some of the organizations have requested for concurrent list. Now, getting into a concurrent list is not going to solve the immediate problem which the industry is fraught with in the light of COVID. It's a long-term process. It's like giving powers to the state government to make legislation and all. Similarly, infrastructure status to hotel. Now, this is something which is again part of the government policy, not a part of the budget. What I'm trying to say is that we must impress upon the ministry to increase the outlay. Once the outlay comes, we can have schemes which can directly or indirectly help the tourism service providers. In fact, ministry has come out with the revised market development assistance, both for overseas as well as for domestic market. Now, what happens is the amount is so meager and you are not able to cover a large, because the overall outlay is very less. So what I propose is that if we are getting a higher outlay, that additional money, say 1,000 crores, can be diverted to a new scheme, because old liabilities have to be incurred, because infrastructure projects are going on. You just can't stop the flow of money. Only if you get extra money that you'll be able to pass it on to the travel trade in the form of schemes. Nobody will get direct money. It can be interest subvention. It can be a subvention on working capital interest rate. It can be marketing development assistance, which gives direct benefit to all the tourism service providers. It could be something more monetary, but in the form of schemes. So what is important is we get the more and more outlay, unless the finance minister herself announces certain tourism specific schemes. For example, in the last few years budgets, the finance minister had announced special tourism zone will be done, iconic spots will be taken up. Now the problem is that along with these announcements of special schemes in the budget itself, no additional funding is appropriated. No funding is given for these particular schemes.
And right. Actually, Mr. Zutsi, that's exactly my point over there. That so far in budget after budget, schemes are announced. These projects are undertaken, which are massive in nature. But somewhere there seems to be a limitation with regards to the tourism and the travel in the hospitality industry per se. And there has been a hue and cry in the industry for far too long, but this is unprecedented. And I have been speaking to a lot of hospitality people, a lot of travel event management people, and they all have, the industry has been bearing the brunt of it all, because it's a massively labor intensive industry when it comes to hospitality and tourism, and
it's a contact industry.
And on top of it, very extremely thin margins, and the organized sector is much smaller than the unorganized sector. So since you have been part of the government and you were on the other side, playing on the other side, so you would know exactly how the government is functioning, how the budget functions, how exactly are these proposals made, and why are those hiccups that there are?
No, there are no hiccups as such. You see, let me come out. Let me tell you certain concrete, the initiatives which have been taken with regard to hospitality. Now, take for instance, giving the hotel industry the infrastructure status. Now, that has been going on since 2014-15, even during my time. Now, the proposal is still in the before the government, and the proposal is that in the harmonized list of infrastructure subsector, we wanted that hospitality should be given that infra status, so that 50 crores and above. In fact, initially in 2013, when the government had put it in the harmonized list, it had put a ceiling of 200 crores. Later on, when 200 crores was not accepted, I'm telling you, when ministry posed this issue before the Department of Economic Affairs, we said you bring it down to 50 crores. So now, today the proposal before the Finance Ministry is for 50 crores as a limit. Now, once that gets approved, hospitality industry, those investments above 50 crores are going to get that benefit. Similarly, industry status, hospitality in states, as I mentioned. If you get the hotel industry as hotel sector as an industry, you will get electricity charges benefits.
Yeah.
You will get water charges. You will get all the other incentives, whether fiscal or otherwise, which are available to the industries of that particular state. So all these things are in the pipeline. I'm not saying, it's just that it has to culminate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Into actual
So
result.
then the point,
Megha,
the big key question being that is that tilt going to happen, especially in wake of the pandemic?
Yeah, what may happen is that, as the budget says, it is an exercise in intent, but it's an exercise in laying out a budget. Let me go to operators. We got Mr. Joshi to share his inputs, but let me bring in Zubin. Zubin, you lead a large hospitality brand and a chain in India. Now, last 10 months have been very tough for you and all the operators. What are your asks from the finance minister? You'll have to unmute yourself, Zubin.
Yes, thank you, Anurag. First of all, I just see the dynamics. The crisis is not over yet. Let's be very, very clear about that. Our industry has, for a good part of last year, been sitting at suboptimal revenue levels. Industry-wide, there is a revenue loss of 95,000 crores. And if I was to put that, number to just and that is across organized and unorganized sectors. And if I was to allocate some of that number to the organized sector, about half of that, 45,000 crores or so, is the revenue loss amongst the branded organized segment. The problem is as follows. Last year, we had a real issue around demand. Our occupancies plummeted. They went down, to near 0%, and then stayed there for a while. There were massive layoffs in the industry. And now, as the year ended, 2020, and there's been some talk about leisure demand emerging. While the occupancies might have started coming back somewhat in some markets, not in all markets. I mean, the status today is the primary markets in the country are still laggards. The leisure locations are, perhaps there's a big trend around drivable destinations, and that's where a lot of demand, say within a 6 to 8 hour driving distance of markets like a Delhi or a Mumbai or Bangalore, that's where it is going. The average rates, by and large, remain subdued. Now, the point I'm trying to make here is that while occupancy levels may still be trickling back, average rate levels have not. And what that means is that revenue levels overall in our industry will continue to remain subdued, at least for the next 6 to 12 months.
And hence, Zubin, what is your ask from? We understand that the ARR is a big issue, overall revenues are a big issue. So what is your ask?
Exactly. So my ask here, because the case I'm trying to build here is, I see us moving from one big crisis into another one. And the next big crisis that we are looking at is a big crisis of NPAs, non-performing assets, because you have many of these assets, which are big investments for their owners. While occupancies might have come back, they are still, revenue levels will still not be enough to be able to sustain the debt service in the industry. Hence, there needs to be fundamentally some restructuring that needs to be allowed into the industry for the long term. Otherwise we are looking at, I think even graver situation in the next quarter or 2 quarters when a lot of these assets are not being able to service their loans. So I think that is the first big ask that I have. And it has been an ask for a while from the industry, and perhaps
yes, a lot of industry leaders that have been on our show have requested that the loans to the hospitality industry be categorized as special and maybe a longer term repayment for them, and that will help the owners to look at.
There is a business case for that as well, and I'll tell you how and why. There are estimates that go around which say every one hotel room generates 16 employments, direct or indirect, right? So supporting the industry, and when I say industry, I don't only say hotels, I say hotels and F&B. That's the largest segment I'm talking, and the larger travel industry is a huge employment generator in the country. So there is an actual business case about supporting and making the basic generators of such employment, ensuring that they remain intact, because otherwise we are actually going to be getting into a bigger crisis. So that's one of the big tasks here.
Specific asks. Let me go to Deepak Deva. Deepak, again, the nature of tourists have changed. The Indian tourist is more in demand, and possibly over the next few years will be a big driver of demand. So as somebody who has a pie in the domestic tourism, I know you like to call it inbound, but we know that that is still growing. While we cannot go to international destinations, it's a silver lining in a very dark cloud that Indians are discovering their own. I mean, look at what has happened to Kashmir in the last 2 months. Look at the number of visitors to Kashmir. Now that augurs well for the industry. Tell us, what are the policy tweaks and interventions the finance ministry and the government can do to give a fillip to this growing trend?
So thanks, Anurag, and I'll break this up quickly into 2 parts. One is the domestic market, which is definitely has been the savior of the hospitality business. I personally, the company I run is not focused on the domestic market. We are doing largely international and inbound business, which I'll speak about in a bit. But you're absolutely right. The amount of, if there wasn't, well, I would put it, domestic business has done well because the borders are sealed and you can't go to countries overseas. So, between Dubai, Maldives and the destinations in India, there is a lot of movement that's happening, and that's very good for the hotels in India. And I'm so glad that it has happened because it has been able to save a lot of jobs. And so that's the good news. See, I think this budget, we all have to understand, is not a normal budget. So, what has been done in the past, let's forget about it. We need to reset. And, we have to forget about complex schemes that are made and that are then implemented. And there is a lot of bureaucratic involvement. We have to keep life simple in this next 1 year. Why? Because we are not talking of a budget of growth. We are talking of a budget to survive. There's a big difference. All these years as a country, we have always looked at growth as the way forward. Now we have to find, and especially for the hospitality business, whatever we said, we need to survive these next 12 months. January to December, business is coming back from January 22, whichever formula, whichever magic wand you have, it says January 22, right? So that's one thing we should.
Some may argue that you're being very optimistic. It possibly the 18 and 24 month, timeline to see real revenues back, where ARRs are better, where F&B revenues supplementing. Yeah. And so, some may say 12 months is a little aggressive timeline.
Yeah, so actually, Anurag, it's not 12 months because I think, you would agree with me that this has been going on since 23rd of March last year. So already 10 months are over. I'm talking of another 12 months. We're talking of 22 months in an industry that may not raise an invoice. Just think about it. It is absolutely crazy. So where we stand today, and we all have to understand, the business will come back from January 2022. Leisure business will be back. Corporate business will suffer. There is definitely no recovery of corporate business that's going to happen in a hurry. So these are two things that are more or less established by quite a lot of experts around, including data that came out recently from UNWTO. Now, listen, we have to be clear about one thing. This industry contributes 6.8% to the GDP contribution is 6.8%. It's no small number. $30 billion worth of spend. Visitor impact is $30 billion. 5.6% of our exports and 40 million jobs, 8% of our employment. Just these three numbers, think about, this was the impact in 2019. These are not projected, these are not budget, these are real numbers. Okay, and this went 90% south. So what we need the government to do, and again, I'm an eternal optimist, but I'm also a realistic in this approach. The biggest pandemic has hit this industry the hardest. We agree.
No question about that.
Zero relief from the government. We also agree on that. So anything that the finance minister will do for us will be the best thing that has happened since sliced bread. However, let's look at it this way. First, we need to have the government pay us there is an export incentive which is due to the industry, which is very much a part of our revenue stream, which has not been paid for 19-20. That's going to be the oxygen for survival. Otherwise, there are many companies that are not paying salaries. People are out of jobs. It's a very dire situation. Secondly, this industry, and I agree, we don't have to give some small sparks to just light the industry up. We need some serious steps to be taken. First, Incredible India must have a budget of 5,000 crores to go out and attract the tourists back to India in the next 24 months. Listen, we know manufacturing, Vietnam took everything when there was an opportunity. China's loss was Vietnam's gain, we didn't get much out of it. If we don't go out and promote India properly, you will have the same effect. The tourists that were going to China, which are close to about 60 million, a lot of them are going to get redistributed in Asia. And if you are not there with the right effect, with the right promotion, it's not going to happen. So that is number one for me. Number two, you have to give this industry export status. Basically what we are demanding is, we are demanding to be treated at par with other exports and services and give us the deemed export status with zero GST. This will sort out all the problems for the future. The past, the government has to go through the schemes that they had and pay up. The future is getting the destination right. I have just one more request for the finance minister. Please don't increase taxes or the visa fees. You see, here we have to be very careful, all of us. While requesting them to give us certain benefits, we also don't want them to increase it. We have a $25 visa fees, leave it the way it is. We have 18% GST at the highest level, we need to do it. Sorry, Megha.
Pertinent point by point issues made. I also, in fact, want Ritu Mehrotra to come in. Very interesting perspective that is going to come from Ritu, because she's the country manager. She manages India, Sri Lanka and Maldives. She's from booking.com. And if you've gone ahead and taken a look at
and Indonesia.
Any of the social media feeds, everybody's flying to Maldives. Every single individual. I have friends, acquaintances, relatives flying to Maldives. So what's the situation? Maldives, how long does it take for India to go ahead and open up the clusters, especially the flight cluster? And another big point, and I think that is going to be an advantage for our country, keeping in mind the vaccination value that India has.
The vaccination tourism. Megha, we are calling it the vaccination tourism.
And there was one particular idea. I had gone ahead and read a report that Seychelles, is promoting its tourism. Obviously, primarily works on tourism. Revenues come out of tourism. And Seychelles is flying people in, keeping in mind that one condition, listen, you get vaccinated, you're going to be allowed inside our country. There is the archipelago that it is. There are not going to be any restrictions, no questions asked. So that's one strategy. Can that be worked domestically, first of all, and then internationally? But Ritu, yeah, Maldives and then Sri Lanka and bringing the crowd back to India.
Hi. So I think there is actually a lot more to it, and I will actually layer this in with multiple other countries and what is the state of tourism even in the country, right? And some of the points already, as some of the panelists have already spoken about. So first thing I do want to say is that, if you look at the state of travel within our country, it's actually the most traumatized community. And if you look at it, and I'm going to throw some global numbers here as well, right? So if you see, third of global fleet has been parked for a long time. Dozen airlines have shut shop. Ride-hailing companies have been delivering more food than moving people around. So it has been crazy times for our industry, to say the least. Now, if you start to peel the onion, right, and I think if I was to go and say that what kind of support do we need, right, and I'm going to say there is a demand side and a supply side, and I will just layer this in with how I'm seeing inbound and outbound, because we are one of the largest when it comes to bringing people to our beautiful country as well. So, tourism has 5.5 million jobs. So it's a very significant industry for any government, number one. Number two, the kind of losses that we would see collectively within the tourism sector is in the range of $10 to $11 billion, which is by all means a very large and a very significant number. Therefore, if I was to say that the demand side problem, and if I was to take cue from what other countries are doing, and we have a neighbor in Thailand where, if I see the size of the country and compare to our country, it's night and day. But the way they have been able to solve this problem is by governments have, worked on offering tax credits. And that's not just, by the way, with Thailand, it's also, we see this in Japan, right? Again, a small country, but the kind of tourists that they sort of attract it's much higher than what we have particularly seen, right? So number one is tax credits, that at least some of these countries in Asia have done it, and providing incentives to the users as well. Imagine when, and this is not just for people who are actually visiting our country, even the domestic tourism, which we have seen as a part of the green shoot, look at a tourist vehicle that has to move from state to state. We've been looking at one nation, one permit for a very long time for the ease of travel as well, right? And if we have to do this within our own country. And if I look at outbound, you're absolutely right. We are seeing green shoots happening in Maldives, Dubai. Sri Lanka is still in the lockdown state. We haven't seen much tourism happening out there. But I do feel that this is an opportunity for our country, wherein people are not going to be, and we are seeing this in our business as well, right? People are choosing to do domestic tourism. Again, closer to home, 6 to 8 hours drivable distance, staycation, workation. People are looking for drivable distance where they can park themselves for not just few days. 9 to 5 is not happening anymore, right? You can work literally from everywhere. You don't have to be in the four walls of your home, and therefore the windows have increased for people to stay in these locations. So this is a golden opportunity for domestic tourism to grow. And in my mind, if the governments and the private sector and operators can come together and actually look at the tax structure in our country and compare that to other Asian countries, there still needs a lot of improvement there. So
thank you, Ritu. Let me bring in Ms. Mayal into the conversation before we take a break. Ms. Mayal, the independent travel operator, the small and mid-sized travel operator, who was not a corporate, who was self-funded, who was dependent on the revenues that came on a daily and a weekly and a monthly basis, has also been impacted because of what has happened in this sector. Ritu talked about it, Deepak talked about it, Zupin talked about it, Jutsi Saab talked about it. So tell us what can be done to help this travel operator. You represent the segment that both from a SME impact has been again impacted. I know because of first-hand experience. My wife runs a mid-sized travel agency, and you know her well. The business has been almost close to zero. Luckily, she's taken to an alternate career and she's doing well. But what do these travel operators expect from the government? What can be done to put them back into the business? Of course, one is reviving the sector through what Zubin said and what Deepak said and what Jutsi Saab said could be possible. But what do you think the government can do to help these individuals travel operators?
Yeah, thank you, Anurag. Yes, I understand the challenges, and there are too many. When I hear all of them speaking, I feel they are giving their own perspectives very strongly. But when I hear to my members, which are 3,000, I get different. They want different things from different members, and it's a very difficult situation. We all do know that every 10th person in this country is basically employed by tourism, direct or indirect. We also know what Ritu said, that we've lost around 5 crore jobs, and it's more to happen, because as offices will start opening, you will see that more unemployment does come into place. So seeing the entire circumstances and the environment and the value chain of stakeholders and suppliers, I think it's a very critical situation. And I think the budget, especially which we are talking about today, should be building very strong policies and reforms which are needed. And I say that in a very broader perspective, because I think this industry has always got a very step-motherly, brotherly, sisterly treatment. And there is never been a very great connect with the government where tourism is concerned. All these policies, and I heard Mr. Joshi say, and I've been working with him very closely, and I've been always appreciative of what he's done, and other secretaries. But when it comes to the national tourism policy, somehow it gets lost. Firstly, it starts getting made and then it gets lost. So the national tourism policy becomes like more than a 5-year plan. So it should be basically a milestone-driven policy that comes into place so that the people can actually adopt it, So I think that's the most critical part. Talking about the MSMEs, I think the budget 2021 should actually focus on enabling the development of the MSMEs, as most of the industry falls in this category.
Let's go to Bhuvanesh. Bhuvanesh, your views with regards to, we've talked about the challenges, we've talked about pitfalls, we've talked about, lamented about the fact that why the government and the finance ministry is not focusing time and again on the tourism industry, and this time perhaps the budget of survival is what everybody is hoping for. Let's talk about the silver lining. I've spoken to a lot of these small boutique hotels, a lot of event managers, a lot of event management companies. They are innovating. So even when there was a dearth of opportunity, especially in the first few months, people innovated, they invented, and things seem to be moving perhaps a bit slowly, but the wheels definitely are churning at this point. You'll have to unmute yourself, Bhuvanesh.
The industry has actually learned a lot more during the last 1 year than it has in all its years.
Yep.
Right? So people have reinvented themselves like we have, like you have, like each one of us. The traffic right now, if you were to spare out your Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Chennai, they're typically top metros, right? The hotels, the small, big, the start, the non-start, are actually doing great numbers. Zubin did speak about ARR, right? The ARRs up country are also not as bad as they are in a Bangalore or maybe a Delhi or a Bombay, right? People have reinvented your health tourism, your boutique hotels, they're all full. You're not getting accommodations. I will measure up when I stop getting calls and messages कि भाई वो मेरी किसी तरह reservation करवा दो. So they know that I'm networked, I know people, and I'm not going to call up people because this is the first time they are making some money in the last 1 year. A lot of people have called me up, या deal दिलवा दे. I said, दिमाग खराब है. Let me tell you another good thing that I will tell you.
About it, yes.
In the last 1 week, I've got requests for booking for at least 4 to 5 weddings. Whereas the government allows 50 numbers, these people are talking about 300, 250, these kind of numbers. Kisi tak kara do.
People want to like you want to spend so much money, and there are only limited number of people. Let's make it big, and that's the compensation that is happening. Very, very good point over there. And also I know I was speaking to a lot of people.
I want to just make a point. I want to make one point. Ask this gentleman sitting over here, Zubin Saxena, how many hotels has he opened up in the last 1 month? And how many is he opening up in the next 1 month?
Yes, and which of them are in the countryside? and in the
The measure is big.
outskirts, actually. That's where the money,
absolutely.
that's where the money is coming in from. Yes.
We have a very long-term view on India. I think we think it's a strongly domestic market. I just have 2 points to make here quickly. One, Bhuvnesh spoke about Dil Dilwale. Please, Bhuvnesh, you have my number. Please call me. But on a serious note, I must make this point that India is an 87% domestic market, and the silver lining of the COVID cloud is domestic tourism. And we need to have some practical solutions, be it reducing GST from 18 to 12%, or be it having LTA limits increased towards tourism, or making it tax deductible, so on and so forth. We need to have those kind of policies, which are not exactly coming out of the exchequer's account, but these are policies which will stimulate domestic tourism demand throughout the country. And India is a tourism market to grow for the next at least 5 to 10 years, in my opinion. So these are all little things.
This is very interesting. Very interesting.
I want to make a point.
Yeah.
See, I believe Mr. Joshi has worked in the government, all of you. Also, the sector's nature was that it was a contact sector. Now that the vaccine is there, the government may want to do a demand-side stimulus. Earlier, the government may not have wanted to do a demand-side stimulus because the government may not have wanted demand to come back in this sector. Because, given the environment and COVID, that may not be the right thing to do. So, Mr. Joshi, while we can have a wish list, and Deepak has outlined rightly so why there is a strong case for this sector getting what the government needs to do. But what do you think is realistically possible?
Well, Dr. Anurag, I would like to react very briefly to the points addressed, basically to the government.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Mr. Deepak Deva mentioned about increasing the outlay from 2,500 to 5,000 crores. Now, it could be, if it is 5,000 crores, we'll all be very happy. But practically, even if there is a 40% increase or 50% increase in the outlay, I think that would pave way for many such, whether they are short-term schemes, whether they are something which directly help the industry. I'm not referring to that. The idea is that money which is given to the ministry should also be spent during the year. And that can be spent quickly only when you directly pass it on to the industry in the most easiest manner in the least possible time. That is one. Regarding deemed export, he mentioned, I totally support his view, because this is also the demand of the industry as a whole. Many associations and industry chambers have also mentioned. But I would say that there are deemed export status can be of two types. One is that you make amendment in the foreign trade policy of 2015-20. The other is that you make amendment in the GST Act, that is deemed export, that is section 147. Now this is something which is within the purview of the budget, because in last budget announcement also certain amendments have been proposed by the Honorable Finance Minister. So we should be very happy if the demand of industry is addressed by the Honorable Finance Minister by suggesting an amendment in section 147 in the budget speech. And that would pave way for the deemed export status to the industry and with GST benefit. Now this is something very important. I would also pitch in for, but that is not part of budget, the tax deferment of GST, whether it is slashing of the slabs, whether it is tax holiday, these are also demands, but they are not part of the. Another demand which has been raised by the industry is that there should be an IT exemption up to 1.5 lakhs for the domestic tourists who are going on domestic tour, and they should get the benefit under whatever section that has been proposed. Now that also comes under the purview of the budget, and it can be considered. However, I personally feel, being the government, that it may be difficult to assess that particular amount, that 1.5 lakhs you have spent, going to your family, going to your wedding, whether it is actually a travel and tour or whether otherwise. But if the government or the budget speech contains this part, we should be very happy that it will be directly related. And let's not forget, if with every family, with every household, every income earner, if he gets some tax benefit at the end of the year by just traveling, nothing could be better. In fact, LTC arrangement by the government, central government is also part of this particular process that, if I give LTC, people will travel and travel industry will also flourish. So these are some of the issues which have been addressed. Now, Mr. Bhuvnesh has mentioned that tourism is picking up. In fact, I would say that I totally endorse the amount, and Mr. Zubin has also mentioned. Can you imagine 2 billion domestic tourist visits happened in the year 2019? And this is compared to 10 million tourists, the foreign travel arrival. Now, it is even more than 85%, I would say. So 200 times more. Now, that is the scope of domestic tourism, and therefore, the government is taking steps towards domestic traveling. In fact, this year, as Ministry has declared as the year of the Dekho Apna Desh. It has come out with a promotion, but there's a lot of things which have to be done, and we have to make our travel trade and industry stronger, both in terms of financial strength, both in terms of infrastructure, in order to render services. If you want to increase tourists within the country also, you need to have the supply side. So supply side can be strengthened by the government either through budget or maybe even through other government initiatives. For example, just GST and deferment and all cannot be part of the budget. It has to be part of the government GST council and all. So in all, I would say that there are many things which need to be, I think, done.
Very important. This is not just a silver lining in the dark cloud. This is the whole bright sun that is shining very, very, very strongly. And make hay while the sun shines. That's the saying. Jyoti Mayal, going with the Atmanirbhar Bharat mission of the Prime Minister of the current dispensation. If you take a look at the opportunities, there are plethora of them. Keeping in mind, when you have allied industries, infrastructure that is going to go ahead and get burgeoined, get more developed in especially the interiors of our country. And it is all juxtaposed, it's all intertwined when it comes to bringing about digitization of the entire country. Especially the remotest, the countryside is one that is suffering at this point of time, and that's where the shift is going to happen. How is the tourism travel industry going to adapt to it, and adapt to it very, very swiftly?
So to come to that point, Megha, I think it's sustainable tourism is the in thing, the buzzword today. And that is what is going to be there for a long time, especially looking at the new norms which are going to be in place even after the vaccine is there. I think these new norms are going to stay. So sustainable tourism is a part of the building up, and all our members and the entire industry is absolutely out to make this happen. So we literally need to rebuild on the circuits of tourism, because it has a huge potential, and vocal for local with Atmanirbhar 3.0 is going to be absolutely the focus. But again, coming back to the budget, Mr. Joshi was saying, we do need incentives to build these. We do need money to promote and do marketing more. We need to be the face to show that India is a safe country. We need tax-free holidays for sure, absolutely. All these needs to be incentivized. Conferencing and MICE should be going into rural India. So we need to set up corpuses for bidding in the national market, which we've already, actually recommended in the budget also. So all these things need to be developed to say that we are here and we can actually enhance our experience, because that is what it's going to be all about. And that is what local tourism needs to be looked and invested in, and we need to see that the wellness index and the carbon footfalls remain. And to come with that, we also need to invest a lot in skilling and upskilling, because e-commerce digitization is going to be here, and we need that as a link to see that the footfalls increase. So all these things need to be effective and incentivized, because incentivized through the Ministry of Tourism has to happen. Then another thing which needs to come in place, which we are talking to the ministry, is we certainly need insurances to come into place. Anyone who's traveling domestically or inbound, like Deepak is talking about inbound, so inbound is a huge business, and outbound and inbound are correlated. It only happens when mutual consideration happens between two countries, and that is what we are seeing where air bubbles is concerned. So we need to say that comprehensive policy of travel needs to be adopted with a proper tax structure, proper marketing, insurances, incentivization, GST reliefs and rebates. All these needs to be taken up at a very, very stronger and together. Because we need this as a comprehensive policy to move forward.
Policy bring about all industries, all allied industries.
Megha, Deepak wants to make a point.
Yes.
Deepak, coming.
So, thank you, Megha. In fact, I just wanted to add quickly to one or two points here. You see, I think we must be clear also that if this crisis that set us back the way it did, there could be other crises that would be coming, and a smart government and in a smart budget would also plan for the next few years. Short-term measures, export, this GST rate reduction, etc. We can get into place. But listen, we have 7,517 kilometers of a coastline, and we have one Goa. Do you know Antalya in Turkey gets more tourists than India? If you go by the numbers even of the government, 8-10 million. I say 5 million, but even that number, the Antalya one beach resort gets more. Government should come out with a fantastic beach policy of enhancing and using up the coastline in a sustainable way. I'm not saying build right into the sea and have tsunamis, but I'm saying have a proper infrastructure that would give us an opportunity. Secondly, we have a serious problem in this country about moving people. And we need 100 good quality trains like Tejas in order to move people around. We forget about airlines. Everybody doesn't fly as a tourist. Everybody doesn't have a car and want to go by road. So third, I strongly believe that we need to reset this whole storyline with how we are going to run the ministry and promote India. We need our embassies and our ambassadors to be responsible for bringing tourists into this country. We have fantastic ambassadors. They're well read, well educated. They can speak fantastic. They know the country. They love the country. Why can't they be the people who promote India? So, we need to now start looking at it, Megha, in a little different way. And let's look at value. Everybody talks, 10 million and everything is full. No, we have to also look at value. What are the hotels going to retain at the end of this? If you're going to sell a 10,000 rupee room for 2,000 rupees, you're not even going to cover your cost. So, we must as a destination come out of this in a smart way. And the government has to assist us in this going forward. I'm not saying give me charity. I'm just saying make good policy.
Being very, very studious in his note taking when every single point is being discussed, he's perhaps going to use his good offices to speak about these points, these discussion points that have been made, and perhaps pitch it to the ministry of India. Yes, Jyoti, you wanted to make a
I just wanted to add on to what Deepak was saying about rail. I think rail is very important because everywhere in the world you see there is a rail pass. We should get on to the proper infrastructure of doing tourism by rail, have one country, one pass, like you were saying, one ration card, one country, Honorable Prime Minister saying, we need village passes to promote rural tourism. We need rail passes to promote tourism in the right format. And, that is very important. And coming back to ease of business, it is beyond the budget, but it is within the budget that the ease of business really needs to stay for our entire industry. We see there is the air travel is somehow not really linked to the travel industry as such. We've had challenges. We've all seen that with refunds and getting money. So that also has to happen to make ease of business happen. Our money needs to be protected in some format by the government. How, with insurance on the tickets, or how we do that is another format, and that only will you motivate and generate more confidence for the passenger and the consumer to travel.
Thank you, Ms. Mahal. Let me bring in Ritu again in the conversation. Ritu, again, all the points made by all your industry colleagues are relevant and must be implemented. But if you had to say, what would be the top two that needs to be done so that the industry gets, revived very fast? Ritu?
So totally agree with all the points that everybody made in the panel, but I feel also that this is the fight of confidence. And it's so important for consumers, users, travelers to actually be incentivized and make sure that, the credits that we were talking about earlier in the show, that those are given out to the users. And in my mind, I think if I was to look at that, how do you stimulate demand? And that's what I've been talking about it as well. And again, there is so much that has been done in our own country and countries outside I think there is so much learning that we can have in terms of providing those sustainable tax credits, singular GST policies, and so on and so forth. So again, I totally agree, and I am, as I said, I feel that this is an opportunity actually for us to promote domestic tourism and within the different segments. And I just want to add something here, right? When we started to see the lockdowns happen, there were other kinds of accommodation types that started to pick up, right? So, smaller homes, homestays, and so on. So I feel that, if there is a standardized policy that can look at the, standardizing GST, that will go a long way in promoting these smaller, medium enterprises that are sitting in smaller locations in this country. That will go a long way.
Okay.
Thank you, Ritu. And and Megha, let us do what we do at the end of the show. Let us get a top lockdown lesson. While it is about numbers and what the industry needs from the government.
Rag, I just want to make one point.
As leaders, yes, go ahead, Mr.
Yeah, I was talking to Zubin today. I got a call from Bali. One of our general managers is there on an expat posting. Do we even have a guess of how many hotels does the Bali island have? They have more than 15.
Perhaps Zubin could answer that for us.
They have more than 50. I'll tell you, there are more than 1,500 hotels, out of which 350 to 450 are starred hotels.
Yeah, so clearly, it's about India promoting, the heritage.
Who is our Bali? Who is our Bali?
Yes, so we need to promote spiritual tourism, we need to promote religious tourism. But let me ask all the panelists, and let me start with you, Mr. Khanna. What is your top lockdown lesson? One top lockdown lesson.
Don't lose hope. I mean, consider 2020 to be a holiday. You've had great family time. You have time away from office, but working. Yeah. My productivity, Anurag will bear me out, is perhaps 10 times of what, I'd done.
Clearly, you saved a lot of money on shaving and winter coffers. Clearly, that's one top lockdown lesson. Ritu, what's your top lockdown lesson?
Customer focus. At the pace at which customer preferences have changed in these last couple of months, it's crazy. And it's been changing, by the way, by the week, not even by the month, right? Every week we see that, what people are looking for is very different. So
you're saying as business leaders, we need to be agile, we need to respond faster. Yes. Jyoti, your top lockdown lessons.
I think the lesson I've learned is that we have got into more cooperation and communications. So I think that's really made some
collaborative and more compassionate, through communication. Zubin, your top lockdown lesson.
Anurag, I have never seen the industry work so closely together. And that to me is the biggest appreciation of the fact that, irrespective of which side of the table we are, we've all decided to be together and stick together through this crisis. And I think that just builds a huge amount of respect for our partners in the long run. So,
beautiful. Deepak, your top lockdown lessons?
So I would not want to be anywhere else but in a leadership position in a crisis. And I think that was a great learning. I think all of us did probably 6 MBAs each in these 8 months. But I think more important than that is the great sense of teamwork and people around you in your team who, we all came together like one big family, and we said we're going to take this on and we're going to move forward, come out stronger and come out smarter. And I think that's what will happen with our organization. I think we're just going to come out much stronger and much smarter, and when the gates open, we're going to bolt out real fast.
That's nice that you pivoted and you're ready for the future. Yeah. Mr. Jutsi, you have the final word.
Dr. Anurag, I feel that this COVID has proved that the tourism world is one and very sensitive to even the slightest of, I would say, disturbances and disruptions. At the same time, it is the indigenous, the local, which has run the nation in every sector. It has been proved in this country. And therefore, the policy of self-reliance, whether for a nation or whether for the tourism industry, is something I think we should all look upon as the panacea and as the real, I mean, I would say, a solution for such calamities and such disruptions which may happen even in future. Thank you.
Absolutely. We are now prepared to take on anything, and we know whatever comes shall pass, and we will survive and thrive as human beings. Megha, finally, your top lockdown lesson. I know I've asked you this question on the show before.
Yeah,
Have you learned something new now that the gym is open and you're hitting the gym very regularly?
Personalities that I gathered every single day. I'm talking to them, discussing with them, getting new insights. My favorite lockdown lesson: keep your eyes and ears open at all time. Absorb all the information, all the bombardment of everything that is happening at this point in time. Churn it well, really in your head, and then look for a brighter future. Revivalist attitude is something. A resurgent attitude is something that I have learned personally, and I'm putting it professionally and personally, and striving ahead along the way. So that's the lockdown lesson. I've gone ahead and everybody, every single one of our panelists over here is going ahead and taking that journey ahead. But I thank all my guests. I thank Dr. Anurag Bhatta. I thank for going ahead and bringing about this fantastic, very erudite panel, going ahead and discussing about tourism, travel, and hospitality. And how is the budget going to go ahead and take a look at this industry and bring about those very pertinent changes that have been brought about in this discussion? But obviously, there's not just a silver lining. There is a whole huge world that is there to be explored, to be caught on, and to make India the Atmanirbhar Bharat and make India the world's #1 tourist destination. Perhaps that's the idea behind this huge shakedown that has happened through the lockdown.